The Souls games, despite not having straightforward stories, still tend to have a bunch of truly disturbing and unsettling moments, and today I wanted to go over which moment I found the most disturbing in each Souls games. Now, these are going to be my personal picks, so yours are obviously going to be different, but without wasting any more of your time, let's start with Demon Souls. Demon Souls has more than its fair share of unsettling moments. The entire Valley of Defilement, for example, has a lot of grotesque deformed creatures that look like they crawled out of someone's worst nightmare, or Asmongold's bedroom. The enemies here are horrifying to look at. I mean, look at the Dirty Colossus, for example. It's like a trash heap that somehow came to life. This whole area feels filthy and suffocating. But even though it's bad, I still think that the most disturbing moment in Demon Souls is going through the Prison of Hope, or the entirety of Latria. The second you step into Latria, it's like you're trapped in a gothic horror story. The atmosphere is dark and dreary, with narrow hallways and flickering lights making it hard to know what's waiting around each corner. The haunting sounds echoing throughout the prison are what really stick with you. There's an eerie mix of chains rattling, faint cries, and that one loud ass NPC screaming his lungs out in the distance. Like, bro, chill, I'm literally right in front of you. This whole area is not just creepy, it's downright unnerving. Then there are the Mind Flayers, who are some of the most unsettling enemies in the game. Their creepy chanting and slow movements are bad enough, but the moment they see you, they do this creepy speed blitz towards you. This whole area makes you feel trapped, which fits perfectly with the theme of a prison. From the visuals to the sound design, everything about the Prison of Hope is designed to mess with your head and keep you on edge. It's definitely one of the most disturbing parts of the entire Soul series, at least to me. Now for Dark Souls 1, I have to go with Pinwheel's lore. We all know Pinwheel. Come on, he's everyone's favorite punching bag. He's probably the first Soulsborne boss to be so easy to the point where he became a meme for years. What if I told you that he has one of the most tragic and disturbing backstory in the series? According to in-game lore, Pinwheel was once a scholar who dabbled in necromancy. In an attempt to revive his family, which consists of his wife and child, he tried a forbidden ritual. Unfortunately, the ritual went horribly wrong, resulting in the fusion of all three into a single, grotesque being. This is symbolized by three masks he wears: the mask of the mother, the mask of the father, and the mask of the child. Each mask represents a fragment of the family he tried to save. After this tragic event, Pinwheel stole the Rite of Kindling from Gravelord Nito, in hopes of using its power to undo his failed ritual or to continue his experiments in necromancy. Now I know this isn't your typical moment, as it isn't something you yourself witness in the game, but it is still disturbing knowing what really happened. You know, despite how sad this is, I still kind of find it funny how FromSoft made one of the most laughably easiest bosses ever, and then just decided to give it a super sad backstory for no reason other than to mess with us even more. When it comes on to truly disturbing moments in Dark Souls 2 that left a mark on me, I couldn't really think of any at first. Look, I know that sounds a bit weird because I'm pretty sure there are some crazy moments in the game, but I don't know, for most of the game there wasn't a moment that was unnerving to me. I guess if you have a deep understanding of the lore, there are definitely some crazy WTF moments like the Rotten, for example. I mean, I don't have to talk about its lore, just look at the thing. It's literally just a bunch of rotten undead corpses melded together into one being. But even that didn't frighten me. And don't think I'm trying to sound cool, I'm not, because the actual thing that I found a bit disturbing in the game is kind of embarrassing. The next somewhat disturbing moment in the game was encountering Vendrick. Okay, disturbing is a bit of an exaggeration. It's more of a damn, what the hell happened to you type of feeling. But it's still an unnerving and tragic feeling seeing a once highly respected powerful king reduced to this zombified husk that's walking around in his drawers. But again, I wouldn't consider this moment disturbing. Okay, the actual thing I found disturbing in the game was encountering the Demon of Song. Yeah, get your laughs out. I know what you might be thinking. Why the hell do you find this goofy ass looking frogman thing disturbing? It must be the lore, right? And no, it's not the lore. It's purely just based off looks. Look, I told you in the intro that these picks were going to be personal, and I wouldn't say that I find the Demon of Song disturbing, but more unsettling if anything. You see, I have ranitophobia, and look, I don't care if I'm pronouncing that wrong, cause I'm not searching that shit up. It's basically the fear of frogs, and finding this thing definitely kinda triggered it, especially when it comes onto its weird movements. It's crazy how the face is the least creepy part about it. So yeah, embarrassingly enough, this was the most unsettling moment in the game for me. But again, don't get it twisted, it's not like I'm scared of the boss or anything, it just has this weird uncanny look to it. When it comes on to disturbing moments in Dark Souls 3, two comes to mind, and yes, I'm gonna cheat and include both. The first one being about Oceiros the Consumed King. To understand this, I'm going to quickly go over his lore. Oceiros is the former king of Lothric. He was obsessed with harnessing his blood for a higher purpose, which may have been to produce an heir to the Lothric throne that would validate the royal bloodline to some degree. To this end, he was willing to ally with the heretics of the Grand Archives. The scholars introduced Oceiros to the worship of Seth the Scaleless. Oceiros was fascinated by dragons, to the point of losing his sanity, and as a result he became known as the Consumed King. When you meet Oceiros in a cavern at the far end of the Consumed King's garden, he is being made into a strange half-dragon creature. So yeah, this man was so obsessed with dragons and having a powerful heir to the throne to the point where he decided to turn himself into one. But instead of looking like your typical dragon, he instead looked like your local crackhead. When we see him in the game, he's muttering to himself, and honestly, he's far gone. But the true reason why I mentioned him was because of his newborn son Ocelot. No, not that one. You see, Ocelot is an invisible baby that Oceiros keeps talking to during the fight. Now at first glance, it may seem like this guy is just a bit schizophrenic, but we can hear Ocelot's crying in the whole encounter, so we know he's real. But what makes this part truly disturbing is halfway during the fight, Oceiros gets mad and slams Ocelot into the ground, crushing him. This is beyond messed up. What's even crazier is that there's an unused model for Ocelot, but even FromSoft thought that shit was too edgy to show and decided not to use it. Now another disturbing moment in the game is, well, seeing Aldrich devouring Gwendolyn. I'm not gonna lie, on my very first playthrough, seeing Aldrich wasn't crazy because, I didn't know anything about the lore, but after gaining some knowledge about what's going on, this is disturbing as hell. Imagine seeing someone or something puppeteering a corpse in real life. That would be horrifying. And knowing this, fighting Aldrich on subsequent playthroughs makes me truly realize how weird and messed up this whole thing is. What's crazier is his backstory. Aldrich was once a high-ranking member of the church who loved to devour other humans. He did this so much to the point where he became living sludge. He died and then sometime later he was revived again, and his main goal was to devour a god. And unfortunately, Gwendolyn was the one that he chose. So yeah, this part is just disgusting, but those were the two most disturbing part of Dark Souls 3 for me. A moment that stood out to me the most in Bloodborne is witnessing the birth of the One Reborn. Sure, there are probably more disturbing moments in the game, but this one is definitely up there for me. Seeing this guy give birth to this disgusting rotten corpse-filled beast was definitely kinda sickening. Another moment that stood out to me is the newborn Great Ones in Upper Cathedral Ward. And speaking about newborns, I have to mention Ariana as well, and what the hell happened to her at the end of her quest line. She literally gave birth to an infant Great One, and all of this happened against her will, which is quite sad. But the most effed up moment in the whole game is definitely learning about what happened in the fishing hamlet. If you don't know already, basically a group of hunters led by Gehrman and Lady Maria went to the fishing hamlet on behalf of the Bergenwort school. They heard about a Great One being in the village and decided it was best to go there to do some experiments. However, the hunters took this way too far. They basically massacred the entire village and in the process killed Cos, which was the Great One they were looking for. It also seemed like they took some of the people and experimented on them. Because of this, Cos decided to curse the hunters, and that's how the hunter's nightmare was made. Basically, every blood-drunk hunter gets transported there. Feeling guilty of what she had just done, Lady Maria threw her sword away and decided to lay low helping the patients at the research hall. But due to the horrible experiments that took place here, Maria, again riddled in more guilt, decided to take her own life. But because of her past sins, her soul was trapped into the hunter's nightmare. Knowing all this made me realize how messed up the lore can be in these games. Running into a headless in Sekiro is definitely one of the creepiest moments in the game. The thick fog and their unnatural movement makes them instantly unsettling. Their design is what made them stand out to me, as they're literally just headless men that's unkillable without a special item. Seeing these guys for the first time was somewhat unnerving, and it doesn't help that they aren't super easy to kill, as fighting them for too long will build up your terror meter, which can instantly kill you, and your movement is slowed down due to the mist around them. And again, going back to their looks, they're just unsettling to look at. Now the lore for them is pretty interesting. The Headless were once proud warriors, but their tragic fate turned them into something far darker. They were driven mad, maybe due to war or other things, but this eventually led them to be beheaded. Fueled by anger and resentment over their deaths, their souls refused to pass on, and they now haunt different corners of Ashina, cursed to wander as an eerie reminder of their grim past. Again, these guys are just creepy as hell. Elden Ring has a lot of crazy, unsettling moments, like for example seeing Godwyn's dead body mutate into this monstrous looking thing all over the lands between, Haida realizing that you've been feeding her actual human eyes instead of grapes, and the entirety of the Abyssal Woods, which is just nightmare fuel. While those moments were a bit disturbing, the two that stood out to me the most were the fate of the Great Caravan and Seluvis' secret. Let's start with the tragedy of the Great Caravan. The Great Caravan were a large group of nomadic merchants in the lands between. They were highly respected until it was suspected that they hid a dangerous power within them. This power was suspected to be the Frenzied Flame. Now, hearing about this, Queen Marika decided to bury them all under the capital. Later on, it turned out Shibiri, the man who accused them of having this power, was just trolling a little bit, and because of this, the Golden Order was like, yep, we fucked up, and decided to punish Shibiri by gouging out his eyes and possibly killing him afterwards. Meanwhile, the merchants that were buried started calling out to the Frenzied Flame as they felt abandoned and, they were being punished for something that they didn't really do or have control over. This probably helped to ease their suffering just a tiny bit, but as you can see, when we go beneath the capital, they're all dead. I mean, obviously they were buried underneath it, but just a few are alive, and they're in a maddening state. So yeah, the Frenzied Flame definitely did not help ease their pain, not even a slight bit. But man, exploring this area and seeing the hundreds of dead bodies just shows you how brutal the world of Elden Ring could be. The other part of the game that was truly disturbing is the revelation of Seluvis' Gunnar Cave. Okay, if you played through Seluvis' questline in Elden Ring, then you would know that this man is freaky as hell. Like, bro is one of the most heinous characters in the whole game. So let me go into his backstory for a little bit. You see, Seluvis and Gideon, yes, that Gideon, were cool with each other in their younger years, except when a certain girl tagged along, and this man Seluvis started to show some jealousy, because she was showing more interest in Gideon than him. And you know something's wrong if Gideon is pulling more girls than you. Anyway, she's the main reason why him and Gideon went their separate ways. But something happened to her later on, but just bear with me for a moment. As time went by, we the Tarnished ended up in Ranni's tower, and here we meet Seluvis for the first time, who hates us for some reason, and I guess it's because he wants to keep Ranni for himself, which is kinda weird, but whatever. Later on, we meet him at his tower, and at first he was mad, but then he tells us something strange. He tells us we should give this weird potion to Nephili Lu, and all he tells us is to find her and ensure she drinks it. Like, what? I mean, bro didn't even try to sugarcoat it or anything. Bro literally told us to pull a Rick Ross and Bill Cosby on her. This man is really weird. But that's not even the worst part. Let's say for some reason you do give Nephili the potion, which why would you? But let's say you give her the potion, she will think it's medicine, and next time you go to Seluvis' tower, there's a secret part you can enter, and here is the big revelation. This man turned a lot of people into drugged out mindless puppets. Also, remember the girl that he met in his younger years? Well, she's here as well, and she's also a puppet. This is really messed up as some of the puppets are placed on beds, and you kinda can put two and two together.
Because of the implication.
Look, I don't know, it's just weird and quite unsettling. What's even crazier is that he even tells you that he wants to drug Lady Ranni as well. But fortunately, after finding out about this, Ranni had him killed. So yeah, this man drugs people and hides them in his Gunnar Cave, and refers to the people he drugged as puppets. Now, it's speculated that he was also a puppet and the man behind all of this is Pydia. Either way, this whole thing was truly disturbing. So those were my picks for the most disturbing moments in each Souls game. Let me know down in the comments below what your personal picks are, and also shout out to my Patreon members, new member Rigo, Daniel Scotland, and Jabroni Jones. Thanks for the additional support, and thanks to all of you watching this video. I hope you have a good one.